Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are back with Randy Swaim, our Marshall Goldsmith certified executive coach and founder of Coaching for Relevance. How are you? How's Texas life treating you today?
I tell you what, everything's going awesome with the Hollywood movie that looks like it's getting real close, almost ready to be out there, sounds like, and just a lot of what's going on. So it's exciting to be here, and it's always a pleasure being on PBN and shows and with you and Steve sometimes, but I know you and I have been connected for quite a while, so it's always a pleasure to be here.
Ditto. What is going on in your world? I mean, so much, I'm sure. All that you do, you just need just at least a half-hour show just to introduce yourself, to talk about what you do. So, in short, let's spill it. And I know we're going to talk about leadership and how you're helping those individuals and businesses achieve more and strive and be, become better leaders in a sense. So great topics for today, I'm sure. Go ahead. Good
deal. Well, I'm not sure what you were wanting me to say about myself, but just
whatever you
been
want.
Involved, and this is just my commitment, and it's not all about me. A lot of people ask me about my autobiography and my movie documentary, and I think you've heard me say this before, but it's not about me. For that, I mean, it's a good story, but even after, if it's 20 years after I take my last breath down the road, I don't mind if people don't remember my name, but what I hope is that there was this one guy that brought out this insight that, I applied it to my life and boy, it made a difference. And that's what I want. And so when I am working with pilots and flight crews and jet pilots and all that, guess what? I bring neuroscience, I bring the coaching aspect to it. And a lot of people that I just kind of work with and a lot of people that I connect with, I bring those skills. And so it's awesome.
Beautiful. Well, we're glad you're here today, and I know you're going to inspire us. What do you have on tap for us, Randy? What type of leadership, skills and stories are we going to hear about today? I'm excited.
Okay. Well, what I was going to do today, you may remember that on a previous show a couple of weeks ago or whatever, I brought out an aspect of how leaders need to kind of, one of the things that can be a little bit dysfunctional sometimes is when you bring your team on a certain aspect where there's a whole spectrum of possibilities on what can be, accomplished or whatever and everything, instead of just saying one thing, kind of getting them involved in everything. And what I was going to do today is expand on that a little bit from a strict leadership standpoint. And what I'll mention is one sort of dysfunctional approach that a lot of, managers out there, people have that they don't understand. There are a lot of good leaders out there. And stuff. So I'm not saying that about everybody, but you do see some evidences of this one dysfunctional approach. And I'll mention why it's not good, but also how people need to kind of be thinking differently when you're leading your team, particularly in an unpredictable, rapidly changing environment. And particularly when you're moving into a strategy and environment where it's not just one little thing, but there's a whole spectrum of possibilities in it and things like that. So I'll bring a little bit of that aspect to it.
Oh, great. Love always hearing it. Go for it, Randy.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll go ahead and start right now. But the first thing that I'll do is mention what is sort of the dysfunctional aspect that sometimes you see today. And I've seen it in managers before. Because they're managers that do not understand aspects of neuroscience and how the brain really works and all of that kind of stuff. And so one of the things, if you think of that situation where you're trying to bring your team into it, what I will tell you is many managers out there think their job is to just tell you what to do, shut your brain off, do what I tell you to do, that kind of thing. But also aligned with that dysfunctional approach is sometimes you see people, and most of the people that listen to this have probably seen this at least a couple of times in their career. Not that they did it, but just observed it. But what what you see a lot of people will do in an effort to force you to shut your brain off and just capitulate to me. What they do is they try to tell a joke or something to get you laughing. And if you and in their mind, what that's doing is bringing you into their thing kind of here and everything. But you don't understand aspects about the neuroscience and how that truly works. And I'll just mention this very quickly and then bring out a couple of aspects of it. But when you do that, you are disconnecting people. And a lot of people understand that you've got a dysfunctional goal. And when you're doing that, and a lot of people, they may have laughed for a second, or some of them may not laugh at all because in their brain, they're saying, what in the heck is this person doing? Kind of, and that kind of thing. And so I just got to understand that. But what I will mention to people is this: when you're thinking about trying to instill a degree of synergy in your team and your people and making them feel like they're a team and they are one and they come together. And even when there's challenging situations coming on board, they come together automatically.
Yeah.
With you. And that is what you want with the team. And when you understand neuroscience, the neurotransmitter, the chemical that the brain releases to help people feel that, is the chemical of oxytocin. That's the chemical that makes people feel connected and everything. And that doesn't happen if you just try to take a joke in such a way that you just make them, kind of thing, whatever. And some of the things you got to realize on this is when you're talking about an aspect of leading your team and developing your team to be truly aligned and synergistic, where they're feeling oxytocin. What you gotta really kind of understand is if you think about some of the aspects that make people want to be a part of your team on their own decision, kind of thing. What you do is you make it such that they want to be a part of what you're doing. And that doesn't necessarily always happen just when you're dictating to them. The fact is when you gain clarity in where your team is wanting to go, and there may be some times where you got to do that, gain some clarity on what we want to accomplish. But guess what? When they feel that you are connecting with them as a leader, you are connecting with them in such a way where you're not just dictating and shutting them down and telling them to shut their brain off and just do what I tell you to do and all that. If to the extent that you're doing that, you're completely shutting off the synergy and the oneness. But when you interact with them in such a way that their brains are, releasing the neurotransmitter of oxytocin, and they're wanting to be a part of what we're doing. I'll tell you what, I can think of back in cases in my aviation career where, man, I wouldn't have gone anywhere else, because of that sense of oxytocin that I experienced because of the way we were connecting. And there are some times that you can see in my autobiography and in the Hollywood movie documentary too, that there were some times where I was able to instill that in other people. They were automatically coming alongside and doing it, not just because somebody told them to, but because deep inside they wanted to. They wanted to be a part of this. They wanted to help make the right result and things of that nature. But it's just something to think about when you're talking about your aspect of leadership. And also, if you think about it, in your team, are you developing them so that they can become leaders in the organization as they move forward? And the bottom line, are you helping them build this awareness into them, kind of thing? Guess what? If you can truly do that in a way where you're asking the right questions, and a lot of times it's not just me telling you what to do, but it's asking the right questions and get you thinking a little bit. And you know what? You bring out some thoughts. Now I may have some other questions kind of thing, but bringing out some other thoughts, and they may all of a sudden have an insight that nobody else saw. And it might be an insight that everybody else on the team goes, oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. Or it may be something that you say, you know what, that's a great point, and that's a good thing. There's one thing we have to be aware on that and be careful of, and get their thinking on that and everything. But if you think about this aspect of true leadership and neuroscience and how you're truly leading your team in a challenging environment where it's not just rote academic, it's not. And if you think about it, one of the true things of leadership, as you'll you'll hear this on the movie documentary, I'm sure, kind of thing. But one of the things I said is, as a leader, it's not about what you get out of it. It's about what you bring. It's about, are you doing what's right for your team, for your company, for the organization, for the group that you're leading, things like that. And guess what? That's bigger than you just telling them what to do. And miraculous things can happen in the growth and development of your company, of your team, if you do that right with true leadership. And it's just something that a lot of people don't think about because they don't think in those terms. But if you understand the neuroscience and the root and the true processing of it and what's really possible in this, it is amazing in what can happen. But you know what? That doesn't happen if you're shutting their brain off because you're trying to make them just capitulate to you. And one of the things you're doing is telling a joke to get them laughing. So they just set aside their brain and just capitulate to you or something like that, kind of thing. That can be very dysfunctional. I
Yeah.
mean, there can be some humor that happens, but the bottom line is what is really present when you're doing that, and what's really going on, and what is the real objective of it. And so it's just something to think about when you're leading your team. It brings a little bit of the neuroscience awareness in and things of that nature. But there's a lot of things that sometimes your team is going to be thinking about or whatever. And how are you responding? If all you're doing is telling them, well, this is the answer to it, you're shutting them up. There's a number of times, and I think you've heard me share one or two times. I know it's in the autobiography too, and all that. But there've been one or two times where I I heard where the team was sort of discussing and kind of going somewhere, just in terms of their thinking. And you know what I
Yeah.
did?
What?
As the leader, I just sat there and listened. And I think I shared this one time before, but there was uh, one person that I know. He and I were both F4 guys in the Air Force, and we knew each other from that perspective. But he was going to jot some notes down by some of the things that they came up with, and he sat down. But then he realized that the boss was right in the room with him, and he froze for a second. And he just looked at me, and all I did was I nodded my head and I winked at him, and he smiled and sat down and jotted some of the notes that they had come up with and stuff. And but the question on that is, when you're talking about a challenging, unpredictable situation, if all you're doing is trying to shut your people's brain off and just capitulate to you and all of that, and sometimes trying to make them dependent on you, and a lot of people will make a joke or something to get you laughing so that they think that you are connecting with them. Guess what? That's not necessarily connecting with you. The bottom line is they may do that and not really being connected. They may chuckle for a minute while in their mind they're going, oh, that's kind of stupid, but okay, kind of thing, kind of thing. You never know. But the bottom line is, when you're talking about how you're really going to do that and how you're really going to help their brains to release the oxytocin, where they feel true synergism together as a team with you being part of that, the way you get there is not just through academic dictate, kind of stuff, and playing games with make believe humor and stuff like that. That's not really building the oneness that you want. And um and so it's just something to think about, the way people really think, want to be a part of your team. And here's one of the things that I'll share with people It's not just about whether people kind of capitulate and stay in your team. It's, as you look at it, to what extent do they want to be here? What to what extent do they want to be a part of what we are doing? And you know what? That's a lot different than what a number of people out there sort of think about. And it's, a lot of people do that just in a way to try to disconnect and control and play dictatorial games and play superficial things because they have no understanding of what the neuroscience is really doing, how people really feel and experience and connect and all that. But it's just one aspect that leaders need to truly understand when you're doing that. And so it's like I say, I mentioned sort of the dysfunctional aspect of it. Avoid the dysfunctional aspect of it. Don't go there. Do it in such a way that your team, on their own senses, their own spirit, their own personality, they want to be with you and in this. They want to be a part of this. And you know what? That doesn't happen just because you make a joke. And that's what a lot of people, that's what a number of people out there, and I've seen managers do this before, where they specifically make a joke just to get you laughing. And what they're doing is they're having you shut your brain off and just capitulate to what I'm telling you to do, kind of thing. And if that's your only focus on it, that's dysfunctional. If you understand how you're really connecting with them and helping them experience such that, you know what, I want to be here. And you know what? When
Mm-hmm.
when challenging situations arise,
Always.
what is it that's really going to make your people want to be a part of what you're doing? Doing those superficial things doesn't get it there. But you know what? If you connect with them in such a way and that true synergy is there and that true vision is there, guess what? Amazing things can happen, even when things are challenging and perhaps unpredictable and all of that. So it's just something to think about when you're talking about true leadership and you see the application of neuroscience and how the brain really works. And to the extent that you're shutting your team's brain off, and that happens when all you're doing is pointing fingers and dictating, kind of thing. If you ask valid questions that get their processing truly going, guess what? That's the other end of that spectrum. They can really get there and come up with amazing results and stuff. But so many people think it's just that I just got to control your thinking. I just got to tell you what to do and all this kind of stuff. If you're doing that, you're not truly leading your team. And so it's just something to think about when you're talking about all that, the neuroscience, the thinking, and the true aspects of leadership that some people don't think about today. And the other part of it is, realize what are some ways where you've seen people dysfunction on that, and what do they need to do differently? And if it's somebody that works for you, how are you going to interact with them in such a way where you're really developing in them the ability to grow and become better at that? And guess what? That's part of leadership. And it's, how you're developing your team in a true way. If all you're thinking about is, I'm just going to tell you what to do, so you'll do what I tell, and kind of thing, and we'll do what we're supposed to do. That's not leadership. That's not leadership. Now, in a really rapidly changing environment, or where something like, and of course in the military background, if it's a battle situation or something, you may have to be able to dictate, kind of what we're going to do right now. That can happen sometimes, depending on how bad it is. But to what extent have you truly grown your people to be able to trust the one time where you're doing that? If they think that that's the only way you're going to be doing anything, they're going to be shutting the brain off, and they're not, why bother? This is what they want to do. Okay, kind of thing. But if you have truly developed your team so that they understand that aspect about it, and they're really experiencing that oxytocin, which is making them feel synergistically connected with each other and with you, guess what? miraculous things can happen. But that's something that leaders need to understand, and a lot of times they don't. And so it's just something to think about that people have to keep in mind.
Well, I appreciate you sharing this with us. Again, Coaching for Relevance is what we're talking about, his company, his book, his movie. He does it all. And really, each and every time we learn so much more about leadership and insight. But really, I mean, you've just your career path, in a sense, has led you to become a leader. But not all those who have your career path, in leadership positions are really good leaders. You're right. It takes a lot.
And there is some truth to that, because it's not just pure academic.
Mm-mm.
It's not just you going through and making everybody just do what I want them to do. That's not being a leader.
Mm-hmm.
That's being a dictatorial manager. And a leader is a lot different. And a leader entails a lot more than that.
My goodness. Well, thank you. We still have more time to talk, Randy. And, in regards to your leadership and your skills, which I know he's very modest, doesn't like talking about, but this is your career now. I mean, part of it, you're helping others lead. You're giving them guidelines from your past experience. You can really empathize with them, what they're going through. Are you mostly working with individuals or businesses now, Randy?
Well, a lot of it is I will tell the key place where I bring this
Okay.
is to flight crews and jet pilots over
Mm-hmm.
at DFW Airport. Now, if there's a case where some company wanted me to come in and guest speak or come in and coach some of their people, would I do that? Yep, you betcha,
Yes.
in a heartbeat. I also work with Rising Stars. In fact, toward the end of this month, we're getting back to the Trinity Trojan Talk with Trinity High School here. And for about 16 years, I've been paired with a chemistry teacher there. And once a month I go in and speak to them, kind of thing. But what I do is I bring this aspect, and I will tell you that there's a lot of people that have experienced this sort of difference that I'm talking about. In fact, one person, there's one 135 FAR 135 company that I'm one of their check airmen. So when their pilots come in here, I'm one of the one or two people that can actually give them their check ride, kind of thing. And and but I was on day one of a initial ground school of 4 pilots that were going through the initial training for the jet that we are focused on. And one of them was from this company. He was a new hire with this company. And he came up and as soon as he saw my name, he came up and he shook my hand. He said, "I want you to understand something. You just have no earthly idea what our company is saying about you. This is amazing. I'm glad you're here today." And I said, "Well, thank you. I bring all of this to what I do here, kind of thing." And they are aware of the differences. And in fact, I had about 5 years ago, I was in the sim because I had just gone down there briefly, and there was the director of operations from this operator and 2 of their pilots in the sim, and they were just sort of closing up. But he was sitting there, he had his iPad here, and he was just closing up, and he said, "Well, one thing's for sure, Randy." I said, "What's that?" And he looked at
Mm-hmm.
me, he said, "You're the only one I want our guys working with." Now, he knows they couldn't just do
Wow.
it with me because of, schedules and all that kind of stuff. But it's just, they have, that happens when you have a true application of what we're talking about, what I'm bringing here. But to flight crews, to even to youth, to anybody else that comes in, and as you know, I bring a lot of this to the podcast shows that I'm on, and things of that nature, and everything. But um, and of course, it does bring it out a little bit in the movie, and it also brings it out in the autobiography. And so it's just that's where I do it. I'm busy. There's not a whole lot of time where I just sit around and wait.
Nope.
But but I will say this, that there's to everywhere where I go, even if I'm just talking to people, and even the church that I go to, there's some aspects where this comes into play, and I bring it. And not anything bad with the church or anything. It's a good church, but I just um, aspects of all of that is so key. And I'm so thankful that in my life's journey, I had all that developed in me from what I observed, from what I learned, from what I developed, from who I became. and all of that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a lot of that. It's very interesting on what I'm doing and everything, and but it's very key, and it's something that people across our society need to understand more of.
Yeah.
And it's so yeah, it's pretty wild on that.
Beautiful. Well, in our last few minutes together, can I have an update on what's happening with the film, with the book? Again, we got to remind people where we can get that from too.
Yep, the book is actually on Amazon, and the title of it is Bring Freedom to Potential, so you can go on there and purchase it if you want. What I'd recommend is there's two ways you can purchase it. One is Kindle. Well, that one is not a book that's sent to you. That's just an electronic version sent to you. But what I would say is go to the Amazon, click on it, and purchase it there, because then they'll send it to you, and you'll have a copy of it in front of you. The other part of it is I just got on the phone with the AEMG guy today, and we were briefly there. And what he said was, this is real close, and he said probably in a few days this is going to be ready to be released. And one of the things they're going to do, and then the title of the movie is Bring Freedom to Potential, the same, and the subtitle is True Story of Overcoming and Soaring Above the Storms of Life. And that's a part of this. But then as soon as the movie is released, I'm going to be flying up to New York City and getting on a professional television studio. And the host, who my understanding is has thousands of people all over planet Earth that are watching his show, he's going to be interviewing me about my movie and story and everything. So but there's places where people can go and purchase the movie, and all that. So that's kind of where we are.
Beautiful.
And it's, my goal is to leave behind, even after I take my last breath, hopefully maybe in 20 years, 25 years or something, or maybe a little bit more, who knows, kind of thing. But when I do take my last breath, my goal is that there's some insights that are just valuable from my story to thousands of other people. And that's what I hope.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Franzi. How can we reach out to you?
You can go to my website and Coaching for Relevance. And if you go to the website and go to the very bottom page of it, there's my email, and it also has my cell phone on there. So if somebody wanted to call, by the way, I'm not going to give you sales pitches. Now, if somebody has some need of something, yeah, we'll come up with something. But I just connect with people. If somebody just wants to have a chat, we can do that.
Perfect. Thank you. Always a pleasure having you here, and looking forward to next time. Enjoy the rest of your day, all you're doing, and hope to see you soon live and in person.
Sounds good. Well, I'll tell you, we'll look forward to it there, Jill. And listen, it's always an honor being with you, and I hope you have a great rest of the week.
Thank you, sweetheart. You too. And to all of our listeners and viewers, stay tuned. We'll be right back with more. Bye-bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Of course my kid's in the right car seat. Well, I think he is.
Yeah, my kid's in a booster seat. He was ready to move up. He is ready, right?
Her car seat looks like the right size.
There are probably rules on when to move up to a booster seat, aren't there?
Rear facing, forward facing. I think I have it right.
Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Don't think you know you know. Go to safercar.gov/the right seat.
I know my child's in the right car seat, or else I wouldn't get in the driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.